Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. Today is Thursday, April 25th, 2019. I'm going to be quick with the Stanley Cup playoff and NBA look backs and look ahead to tonight. I'll give you my round 2 Stanley Cup playoff picks as well. Baseball, my final mock draft, and my best bet of the day. Alright, we'll start with the Stanley Cup playoffs. We had a classic Game 7 overtime last night between the Hurricanes and the Capitals, and the Hurricanes pull off the upset in D.C. 4-3 in double overtime to advance to the second round. The Stanley Cup champions are eliminated. Every division winner is out. Good for the Hurricanes. Good for Robin Amore. So good job by him, and they were playing the Islanders in the second round. First period, though, Alexander Burakovsky puts the Caps on the board 1-0. Andre Burakovsky. Tom Wilson, 2-0 Caps, second period. Sebastian Aho, second of the playoffs, shorthanded, made it 2-1. Evgeny Kuznetsov's first of the playoffs, made it 3-1. Teuvo Teravainen started the playoffs, ties it up. Makes it a 3-2 game. Jordan Staal's third of the playoffs, ties it up at 3 apiece. And the overtime winner for the Carolina Hurricanes to go on to the second round, Brock McGinn gives the Capitals the Hurricanes the 4-3 win to advance. McGinn was number 1 star of the game with the goal and assist. Jordan Staal was the number 2 star of the game with the goal, and Andre Burakovsky was the number 3 star of the game with the goal. My second round predictions before I go over to NBA. Tonight, you have the Blue Jackets against the Bruins. That's game 1, 7 o'clock, NBCSN. I don't know who the announcers are for the 2 games yet. This series is going to be really interesting. John Tortorella against Bruce Cassidy. Both these teams are good offensively. Boston's, I think, a little deeper. And then in goal, you have Tuukka Rask, the red-hot Sergei Bobrovsky. Defense, I think Seth Jones is the best defenseman in this series, although Charlie McAvoy is very good. Torrey Krug's really good. And Zach Werenski of Columbus is also really good. This series, I think Boston wins in 6, and I think Boston also wins Game 1 tonight. The Stars against the Blues, 9:30 NBCSN. I love this series. This is going to be a good series. The Stars, I don't think many people thought would be in the second round. The Blues were a popular pick in round 1. They were actually favored over Winnipeg. In goal, Ben Bishop played well in the first round. Meanwhile, for the St. Louis Blues, Jordan Binghamton's been on fire. The Blues are the deeper defensive team, led by Alex Pietrangelo and Robert Bertuzzo, Jay Baumeister, Vince Dunn, Joel Edmondson. They're deep. Carl Gunnarsson, Michael Del Zotto's on this team. And for Dallas, you have a good top 2 of Miro Heiskanen and John Klingberg, and their depth isn't that great defensively. And of course, offensively, both these teams are lights out. With the Blues, you have Vladimir Tarasenko, you have David Perron and Ryan O'Reilly and Jaden Schwartz. Moving on for Dallas, you have Alexander Radulov and Jamie Benn, Mats Zuccarello, Tyler Seguin. I think the addition of Zuccarello has really helped them. Their power play's better. Like I said, this is going to be a good competitive series. I just think the Blues are the better team, and they're just poised to go on a deep run. So give me the St. Louis Blues in 6 games. Starting tomorrow night, you have the Hurricanes and the Islanders from the Barclays Center. We are going to... And by the way, I have the Blues winning Game 1. I'm going to pick the Game 1s tomorrow night on tomorrow's podcast, but I'm just going to pick the series winners Hurricanes, Islanders. Hurricanes are deep offensively. You have Sebastian Aho. Hopefully Andrei Svechnikov comes back. You have Jordan Staal. You have a lot of surprise contributors like the overtime hero from last night, and you also have a bunch of role players that are really improving, and that's been a big key to Carolina. And on the flip side, Islanders, Jordan Eberle's had a good playoff. Anders Lee's been okay. You obviously have Matthew Barzal. Defensively, I think the Hurricanes are the better defensive team between the two teams. They're the deeper defensive team in my mind, led by Justin Falk, Calvin LeHan, Jake Bean, Dougie Hamilton, who's been a really good trade acquisition. Meanwhile, for the Islanders, they've been pretty solid defensively in front of Robin Lehner. Nick Leddy and Johnny Boychuk obviously have been on the team for a while now, leading that defense. Thomas Hickey's been solid for them defensively. You also have Ryan Pulock, who's had a good year. Scott Mayfield's a vet. I mentioned Lehner and how good he's been in net. And on the other side, you have Peter Mrazek, who I think is erratic. To me, it just comes down to who do I trust more than that. And honestly, Mrazek's had the more success in the postseason through his career, obviously with the Red Wings. But Lehner's been the hotter goalie. I see Binnington's the hotter goalie in the West. And I think that Lehner's been the hottest goalie in the East. I'm going to go with the Islanders in 7 games in this series. And last but not least, the Sharks and the Avalanche, which begins tomorrow night. This is going to be another phenomenal series. Martin Jones has been somebody that got off to a slow start in the postseason and really has turned it around and helped the Sharks advance to the second round. He deserves a lot of credit for turning his game around. And on the other side, Philip Gallbauer, the former Capital, has been lights out for Colorado in the second round. In the first round as well. Offensively, you have Nathan McKinnon, who I think has been the best player in the postseason so far. You have Mikko Rantanen and Gabriel Landeskog. That's been a great big three for the Avalanche. And their depth has been better in the playoffs. Tyson Yost is solid. JT Compher scored a big goal for them. And they're improved defensively with the addition of Cale Makar on their defense to go with Eric Johnson, Samuel Girard, Ryan Graves is okay, and then obviously Tyson Barrie. Meanwhile, on the flip side, San Jose loaded offensively. You have Joe Pavelski, who got injured in Game 7. We'll see how he does recovering from the injury. You obviously have Joe Thornton, and you have Timo Meier. You have, on defense, who produces offense, Erik Karlsson and Brett Burns. Kevin LeBlanc's been a good contributor, obviously Evander Kane. Marc-Edouard Vlasic's a good defenseman. Gustav Nyquist is a good scorer. And then meanwhile for Colorado, I talked about how improved they are depth-wise with the addition of Makar. This is going to be a great series. I thought long and hard about picking the Avalanche here, but I just think that the Sharks are the much better team Well, I think it's just a little bit of a stretch to say much better. My bad. I think they're slightly better. Home ice advantage. Give me the Sharks in 7. We'll flip over to the NBA now, where there was 2 games last night. The Rockets over the Jazz 100-93. Houston wins the series in 5 as they advance to take on the winner of Clippers Warriors. I can't believe I'm saying that. I'll get to that in a second. James Harden, 26 points. Royce O'Neal had 18 for Utah in defeat. Clippers over the Warriors, 129-121. So it's a 3-2 series now. They forced a Game 6 back in Los Angeles. The Clippers just don't quit, man. They were so good. Lou Williams, 33 points and 10 assists. Kevin Durant had 45 points. Warriors actually were down double digits in the fourth quarter. They came from behind, took the lead briefly with like 3 minutes to go, and then the Clippers closed it out. Credit to Doc Rivers and that staff. That was just excellent by the Clippers. And now there's a game Friday night at 10 o'clock on ESPN to either close out for the Warriors or, dare I say, force a Game 7 for the Clippers. So you never know. Now my final mock draft. As the draft's tonight, obviously. I'm going to have a podcast coming out later doing fits and predictions and player comps. And hopefully I get that in before the draft starts. Let's just get going with the mock draft. Number 1 overall, Arizona, Kyler Murray. I think the rumors that they're going to take Joey Bosa or Quentin Williams is just a smokescreen, and they ultimately take Murray, who fits Cliff Kingsbury's offense very well. 2, San Francisco 49ers. Nick Bosa, defensive end, Ohio State. This is the best player in the draft. Niners are doing cartwheels when Arizona decides to take Kyler Murray. 3, New York Jets, Quentin Williams, defensive tackle, Alabama. Williams is a stud. The Jets would be making a massive mistake if they traded down. 4, Oakland Raiders. Ed Oliver, defensive tackle, Houston. The Raiders pass on the edge rusher to go with an interior defender with Oliver. 5, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Devin White, inside linebacker from LSU. Tampa decides to go with White over the talented Josh Allen as they improve their linebacking core. 6, New York Giants, Josh Allen, outside linebacker, Kentucky. Dave Gettleman's doing backflips as he lands, one of the 3 best players in the draft with Allen, as he patiently waits for a quarterback to fall to him at 17, or does he trade up? 7, Jacksonville Jaguars, Jawan Taylor, offensive tackle, Florida. Taylor has been linked to the Jaguars a lot lately with the 7th pick. I think that's a distinct possibility as they improve protection for Nick Foles. 8, Detroit Lions, Rashawn Gary, defensive end, Michigan. I think Detroit wants to go pass rush here, and Gary is very tantalizing. 9, Buffalo Bills, Jonah Williams, offensive tackle, Alabama. I think Williams is the best tackle in the draft, offensive tackle. And I like Taylor, but I just think Williams is better. As the Bills get much needed protection for Josh Allen. 10, Denver Broncos, Drew Lock, quarterback, Missouri. Denver decides to go against what John Elway you would think he would do and take a quarterback high with Locke, who would be the long-term replacement for Joe Flacco. 11, Cincinnati, Devin Bush, linebacker, Michigan. Cincinnati's doing backflips as Denver decides to go with the quarterback, and Cincinnati improves their dreadful linebacking corps from a year ago. 12, Green Bay Packers, TJ Hawkinson, tight end. Iowa, Hawkinson falls to the Packers as they get a long-term replacement for Jimmy Graham. 13, Miami Dolphins, Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle, Clemson. The Dolphins have choices after the linemen go 7 and 9 that they would like. I don't think they would take Dillard, so they decide to settle on Christian Wilkins to improve their pass rush. 14, Atlanta Falcons, Andre Dillard, offensive tackle, Washington State. Dillard is someone whose stock has risen of late. And I think the Falcons sort of reach here at 14. 15, Washington Redskins. Daniel Jones, quarterback, Duke. Tough call here between Haskins or Jones for Washington, but the Jones buzz is real. Peter Schrager of Fox is reporting it, and I think that everyone thinks that the Giants are taking him because of their connections to the Manning family, but Washington, I've been told, likes him. So I think Washington surprises us and takes Daniel Jones. 16, Carolina Panthers. Brian Burns, defensive end, Florida State. Panthers, after Dillard goes to Atlanta, I think the Panthers instead improve their pass rush by selecting Burns. 17, New York Giants. Dwayne Haskins, quarterback, Ohio State. Giants fans can rejoice and have a sigh of relief after Washington decides to take the worser quarterback in Jones. The Giants land who I think is the best quarterback in the draft in Haskins, who has all the makings of a leader and a franchise guy. 18, Minnesota Vikings. Chris Lindstrom, guard, Boston College. Lindstrom's one of the fast risers heading into tonight's draft. I won't be surprised if he goes higher than this. 19, Tennessee Titans. Clelin Ferrell, defensive end, Clemson, the second of 3 defensive linemen from Clemson, goes off with Ferrell. 20, Pittsburgh Steelers. Byron Murphy, cornerback, Washington. Murphy is one of the better corners in the draft. I think Pittsburgh should go defense with this pick and wait for the second round to address wide receiver. 21, Seattle Seahawks. Jalen Ferguson, defensive end, Louisiana Tech. Ferguson's somebody that I feel somebody's going to reach for. It feels like this year's Marcus Davenport, coming from the same conference as Seattle, attempts to replace the production Frank Clark gave them. 22, Baltimore Ravens. DK Metcalf, wide receiver, Ole Miss. Metcalf is the top receiver on many teams' boards as the Ravens take him to be a downfield threat for Lamar Jackson. 23, Houston Texans. Dalton Risner, offensive tackle, Kansas State. Risner is somebody that would come in and immediately improve the Texans' offensive line, and I think that Houston must improve their line with multiple picks in this draft. 24, Oakland Raiders. Greedy Williams, cornerback, LSU. The Raiders land the steal here by landing who many people feel is the best corner in the draft with Greedy Williams. John Gruden's going to want to pair him with Garyon Conley in that secondary. 25, Philadelphia Eagles. DeAndre Baker, cornerback, Georgia. The Eagles, many people think, want to improve their secondary in the first round. Baker, to me, is one of the more underrated corners in the draft. 26, Indianapolis Colts. Dexter Lawrence, defensive tackle, Clemson. This would be a great pick for the Colts, who would keep adding on to the young collection they have to build around Andrew Luck. 27, Oakland Raiders. Noah Fant, tight end, Iowa. Fant is somebody that stock has dropped. He was thought out to be the best tight end in the draft, but he was supplanted by his teammate T.J. Hockenson. But the Raiders get a guy who could come in and replace Jared Cook. 28, the Los Angeles Chargers. Jerry Tillery, defensive tackle, Notre Dame. Tillery is somebody that I expect to be picked in the late first round, early second round. He's very versatile and would fit nice next to Joey Bosa on that defensive line. 29, Seattle Seahawks from the Kansas City Chiefs. Juan Thornhill, safety, Virginia. Seattle continues to bolster its defense by taking the safety in Thornhill, who's getting a lot of buzz heading into the draft tonight. 30, Green Bay Packers. Jeffrey Simmons, defensive tackle, Mississippi State. The Packers take somebody that tore his ACL last year and whose stock has dropped. And if he returns to the player he was before the ACL tear, the Packers get themselves a steal. 31, Los Angeles Rams. Garrett Bradbury, center, NC State. Brad would be a welcome addition to that offensive line. Lost John Sullivan in free agency. 32, New England Patriots. Marquise Brown, wide receiver, Oklahoma. I'm not a huge Marquise Brown fan because Kyler Murray kept throwing to him in college. But he'd be somebody that is in a good situation again, going to a good quarterback in Tom Brady, or somebody who's still good in Tom Brady, I should say, and would be productive for the Patriots. So no Montez Sweat going in the first round. So that's going to be my bold prediction for the draft tonight. With his heart condition, I think he drops to round 2. That's it for my mock draft. And before I go, best bet of the day, brought to you by DraftKings. There's a couple NBA playoff games. Actually, no. Oh, no, there is one. My bad. And I forgot to pick it. It's Game 6 between the Nuggets and the Spurs. San Antonio's favored by 3 at home. I think the Spurs win and force a Game 7, so that'll be a part of Best Bet. And then we'll go to hockey. We'll take the Bruins and the Blues. In baseball, we'll go with the Phillies. We'll bank on Aaron Nola rebounding. We'll go with the Red Sox. They did us good yesterday. Garrett Cole is going for the Astros. We'll take them over the Indians. And that's 6. A little under 16-1. Laying $1 payout of $16.96. That's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping the draft and evaluating everybody's picks and giving them instant grades. Obviously going to go over the NBA and NHL playoffs, baseball as well, and preview round 2 of the draft. And we'll pick some of the round 2 NBA series because I don't do the podcasts on Saturdays and Sundays, as you all know. So I hope you guys have a great day, everyone.